When I was 16, my parents told his friends I was the family mistake. Mom laughed, pointed at me, and said, "Birth control's only 99% effective. He's the 1%. I left that night with $40 and a backpack. 6 years later, they finally found me. Today, they showed up crying at my door, begging me to talk, throw away for obvious reasons. And yeah, this got long. 6 years of bottled up shit tends to do that. I always knew I wasn't exactly the golden child in my family. My brother Morris was the planned one, good grades, varsity jacket, the whole package. I was, well, according to my mom's dinner party jokes, I was what happens when you trust cheap pharmacy brand condoms. Hilarious, right? She'd been making that joke since I was like 8. I grew up thinking it was normal for your mom to use you as the punchline, but you adapt. I developed this ability to smile through the jabs, like some kind of emotional callus. When adults asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I'd say a tax write-off, because that's how my dad referred to me when he was 3 beers in. People thought I was this witty kid. Nah, I was just repeating the household material. The night everything changed was my mom's birthday dinner, not the actual family dinner. That was just the 4 of us at some mid-tier restaurant where Dad complained about the prices while ordering his 4th scotch. The real event was 2 days later when my mom invited her work friends over. These weren't just any friends. These were the country club crowd my mom had been desperately trying to climb into for years. Our house wasn't fancy, but Mom went full Pinterest psycho for this dinner. New placemats, candles, the good plates that normally collected dust. Dad was told to wear his one decent button-up and to, please, for the love of God, stay under 5 drinks. Morris got the be impressive talk. I got nothing. Not even a please don't embarrass me. That should have been my first clue. The night started with me playing server because Michael, be useful for once. I passed around appetizers while Mom told stories about Morris's baseball scholarship prospects. Dad managed to keep it together through the first hour, nursing his drinks while nodding at appropriate intervals. I was invisible, which was the best-case scenario in these situations. Then someone asked about family planning or something. Some lady with one of those "I want to speak to the manager" haircuts said something about how expensive kids are these. That's when it happened. My mom, 4 glasses of white wine deep, got this look I knew too well. That, "I've got a real zinger" look. She pointed directly at me as I was collecting empty glasses. Birth control's only 99% effective. She paused for effect. He's the 1%. Everyone fucking laughed. Even my dad, who usually just existed in these situations, let out this belly laugh like it was the funniest shit he'd ever heard. I stood there holding dirty glasses while everyone laughed at the fact that I was never supposed to exist. Morris wasn't laughing. He was staring at his plate like he wanted to disappear. At least someone in that room had the decency to feel shame. But the worst part? My mom wasn't done. "We already had our perfect kid," she added, gesturing to Morris. "Michael here is what we call the family mistake." More laughter. Someone, I think it was my dad's boss, actually said, "Ouch, bet that's gonna leave a mark," like we were in some shitty sitcom. I didn't throw the glasses, I didn't scream. I just set them down carefully on the table and walked upstairs to my room. Nobody noticed. The conversation had already moved on to someone's vacation in Cancun. I sat on my bed, and something inside me just clicked off. Like when you shut down a computer that's been running too many programs. The emotional screen went blue, then black. I knew I was leaving that night. I grabbed my school backpack and dumped out the textbooks. Who needs trigonometry when you're about to be homeless, right? I packed the essentials, couple t-shirts, jeans, underwear, toothbrush, the $40 birthday money from my grandma that I'd been saving for a new game, my phone charger, the emergency Cliff Bars I kept for when Dad forgot to go grocery shopping. Morris came up while I was packing. We didn't say much. He knew. He'd seen this coming before I did, probably. He handed me $120 from his own savings and his old phone that still worked but wasn't connected to the family plan. Said he'd load $20 of prepaid minutes on it the next day. "They won't even notice you're gone until tomorrow afternoon," he said. Not accusatory, just factual. Like he was giving me the weather report from my journey. I almost broke then. Almost unpacked everything and crawled into bed to wake up for another day of being the family punchline. But then I heard more laughter downstairs and my mom's voice carrying up, saying something about teenager attitude problems. Fuck that. Nope. I was done. I waited until midnight when the house was quiet. Mom and Dad had both passed out after their respective bottles of wine and whiskey. Morris left his desk light on, our old signal from when we were kids and one of us was sneaking to the kitchen for snacks. All clear. I didn't leave a note. What was I going to say? "Thanks for making me feel like a cancerous growth on your perfect family for 16 years? The night was cold. Late October vibes. I had nowhere to go, but that still felt better than staying. I walked until I hit the 24-hour McDonald's and used their Wi-Fi to figure out my next steps. Ended up on a Greyhound to the next city over. Not too far, but far enough. First week was rough. Slept at the bus station 2 nights. Found a youth shelter after that. They let me stay 2 weeks while I got a dishwashing gig at this sketchy diner that didn't care I was underage. Paid cash, which was all that mattered. Morris kept in touch through this throwaway email account we set up. He said Mom cried for the cameras when she reported me missing, then complained about me always being dramatic when the police left. Dad got drunk and said I'd be back when I got hungry enough. I wasn't going back. Not when hunger twisted my stomach into knots. Not when I slept in a shelter surrounded by people yelling in their sleep. Not when December hit, and I still didn't have a proper coat. 2 months in, I met Ronnie. He caught me sleeping in the break room at the diner when I was supposed to be on dishes. Instead of firing me, he asked why I wasn't in school. Ended up telling him everything over cold fries after closing. Turned out Ronnie had his own family mistake story. Different details, same flavor of shit. He hooked me up with a gig helping on renovation jobs. Under the table at first, then legit once I got my GED at 17. Even let me crash on his couch until I could afford the world's most depressing studio apartment. Those first 2 years were a blur of 12-hour days, instant ramen, and falling asleep to YouTube tutorials about taxes and credit scores on free Wi-Fi. No social life because who had the time? Just work, save, survive? Morris graduated and went to college 3 states away. Smart move. We still emailed, but less often. He was living his life, and I was building mine from scratch. Year 3, I started to feel almost human again. Had my own place that didn't have visible mold. Started community college classes online. Even went on a few Tinder dates that weren't complete disasters. My parents? They finally realized I wasn't coming crawling back around month 5. Filed a missing persons report that went nowhere because I was working and paying bills under my legal name. They just weren't trying very hard to find the mistake. Morris told me they had turned my room into a home gym by my 17th birthday. Dad got my baseball card collection that was actually worth something. Mom told the neighbors I was at some special boarding school for troubled teens. That's when I decided this wasn't just about escaping anymore. This was about becoming someone they'd regret losing, someone who'd make them realize what they threw away. I stopped being angry all the time. Anger burns calories you need for climbing. Instead, I got cold, calculating. Started thinking about money not just as survival but as power. Every paycheck, every A in my online classes, every new skill I picked up became another brick in the wall between me and that dinner table, where I stood holding dirty glasses while everyone laughed. It's been 6 years now. I'm 22. I have my own place, my own life, my own chosen family of friends who actually give a shit. Morris is the only one who knows where I am, and he's sworn to secrecy. Or he was, until last week when he called to warn me that our parents are looking for hard, because now they need something. Turns out the Bank of Karma is finally calling in their debt. And me? I'm the collections agent they never saw coming. The interest on emotional debt compounds daily. Update. First off, holy shit, didn't expect the first part to blow up like that. RIP my inbox. Thanks for all the awards and validation that I'm not the crazy one in this story. For those asking if this is real, unfortunately, yeah. Some details changed for obvious reasons, but the core story is my life. Wish it wasn't. Alright, picking up where I left off. The first 2 years after leaving were basically survival mode. Working double shifts, eating budget ramen, and sleeping on a mattress I found by the dumpster. Don't judge. I Lysoled the hell out of it. I'd check my email at the public library, where Morris would update me on the home situation. Apparently, Mom and Dad spent about 3 weeks looking for, and by looking, I mean Mom posted a couple of dramatic Facebook updates with my school photo, getting her daily dose of sympathy reaction. Dad called exactly 2 of my friends from school. That was the extent of their search for their missing kid. Month 4, Morris sent me a screenshot of Mom's Facebook post announcing they'd converted my bedroom into her dream home gym, with a Peloton knockoff and those decorative weights nobody actually uses. Caption, making lemonade from life's lemons. #blessed. #fitmom. That post got more engagement than any about me being missing. Let that sink in. By year 3, I'd saved enough for community college classes. Not the fancy in-person kind, the cheap online ones you do after working all day. My back hurt from hunching over a laptop at my kitchen counter, aka a door on 2 milk crates. But that pain felt different. Productive pain. I studied business and finance, not because I had some passion for spreadsheets, but because I was learning money is just math, and math doesn't care if you were wanted or not. That's when I met Zoe in an online study group. She messaged me privately after I fixed her Excel formula during a group project. We started video chatting about assignments, then about everything else. She was smart as hell, studying for her paralegal certification while working at a law office. First time we met IRL was at this sad coffee shop halfway between our apartments. I was nervous AF, wearing my one decent shirt that still had a small pasta sauce stain I'd tried to hide with a pen. She showed up with her hair in this messy bun, glasses, and a smile that made me forget about being the family mistake for a whole 3 hours. I told her everything that night, expected her to run. Instead, she got this look. Not pity, something colder. She told me about her own toxic mom who used her as an emotional punching bag. We were the same kind of damaged, just different flavors. Zoe changed my perspective. Where I saw survival, she saw opportunity. She'd point at property listings while we ate takeout on my floor and say things like, "That building's value is all wrong based on the neighborhood growth pattern." Meanwhile, Morris kept me updated on the home front. Dad's drinking had gotten worse after he got laid off. Mom's social climbing hit a ceiling when her fancy friends realized she couldn't keep up financially. Their credit card debt was piling up. They'd refinanced the house twice. Morris graduated and moved away for a job. Smart kid. He was the only one who knew which city I lived in, but not my exact address. We had an emergency system. If he ever texted Blue Waffle, an old gross internet joke between us, it meant our parents had somehow figured out where I was. Year 4 was when I started making actual progress. Got promoted twice at work, moved to an apartment where the neighbors didn't scream at 3 a.m., started building credit with a secured card. Small victories that felt massive. I became obsessed with personal finance subreddits and YouTube channels, learned about investment accounts, compound interest, credit building. Every dollar I saved felt like another brick in the wall between me and ever needing my parents again. Zoe moved in with me at the start of year 5. Our place wasn't fancy, just a one-bedroom with functioning appliances and a shower that didn't randomly go cold. But it was ours. We'd sit on our second-hand couch eating discount stir-fry, planning our finances like some couples plan weddings. That's when Morris dropped the first bomb. He called instead of our usual texts, which immediately set off alarms. Dad had lost their house. Not immediately. They were in pre-foreclosure, but the bank was coming. Years of refinancing, missed payments, and Dad's business ideas had finally caught up with them. They had 90 days before eviction, and suddenly they remembered they had another son. Mom started posting old baby pictures of me on Facebook. "Missing my baby boy every day. Please share to help us find Michael. #missingson, #come home." The same pictures she couldn't be bothered to post when I actually went missing. The comments were pure gold. "I thought he was at boarding school? Didn't you say he joined the military?" My personal favorite, "Isn't that the room you turned into your gym?" Dad apparently joined some Facebook groups for parents of estranged kids, started portraying himself as this heartbroken father desperate to reconnect. Morris said he even got sober for about 3 weeks before falling off the wagon again. I watched all this from a distance, through Morris's updates and by lurking on their social media. Something cold was forming inside me. Not just anger, something more calculated. Zoe noticed. We'd be eating dinner, and she'd catch me staring at nothing, running numbers in my head. She didn't try to talk me out of what I was planning. Instead, she helped refine it. I'd been saving and investing aggressively, living below my means while building a portfolio. Not huge money, but enough to make some moves. Zoe helped me understand the legal angles through her paralegal knowledge. That's when we hatched the plan. I contacted the bank handling my parents' mortgage, used a different name, created an LLC, explained I was interested in purchasing distressed properties in that neighborhood, made an offer on their specific loan. Banks don't care who buys the debt as long as they get paid. 3 weeks and a stack of paperwork later, I owned my parents' mortgage. They didn't know it, but they now owed me money for the roof over their heads. I didn't foreclose immediately. I wanted to wait until they found me, until they came begging for help, not knowing I held their financial future in my hands. Zoe called it poetic justice. I called it balancing the ledger. Meanwhile, Mom's desperate social media campaign to find me was gaining traction. Some local Facebook group in their town shared her posts. People love a good family reunion story, especially when they don't know the truth. The mistake happened 6 months ago. Morris was visiting us for the weekend, posted an Instagram story of us at a local restaurant, a place with a unique mural in the background that screamed our city. He deleted it after 10 minutes, but Mom had already seen it. The text started flooding in. Morris showed me his phone with 27 unread messages from Mom, all variants of, "Is that Michael?" and "Where are you?" Morris sent the Blue Waffle emergency text that night. We laughed it off. What were the chances they'd actually find me in a city of 2 million people based on one mural? Pretty good, apparently, when you're desperate. 2 weeks ago, Morris called, said Mom had joined every Facebook group for our city, posted my high school photo everywhere, looking for my son, with some sob story about us being tragically separated. Then last week, the neighbor across the hall mentioned someone had been asking about me, showed me a screenshot. My mom had somehow found our apartment complex's community page and was messaging residents. I changed our locks that day. Part of me wanted to run again, start over somewhere, but Zoe reminded me I owned their house now. I held all the cards. Maybe it was time to play them. 3 days ago, it happened. I was working from home when the buzzer rang. Checked the security camera feed on my phone. Thank God for cheap smart home tech. There they were, Mom and Dad standing at my door, looking older and significantly more desperate than I remembered. Dad had lost weight. Mom had gained it. Both looked like they hadn't slept in days. Dad was shifting from foot to foot like he needed a drink. Mom was clutching her purse like it contained her last shred of dignity. I didn't answer. Watched them press the buzzer 3 more times. They finally left a handwritten note begging me to contact them about an urgent family matter. Morris called that night, confirmed what I already knew. They were here about the house. They needed money. They needed their mistake to bail them out. I spent the next 2 days preparing with Zoe, gathering documents, practicing what I'd say, how I'd remain calm, how I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing the hurt kid they'd left behind. Yesterday morning, the buzzer rang again. Same desperate faces on the camera. This time, I buzzed them up. 6 years of silence was about to end, and they had no idea what waited for them behind my door. The mistake they laughed about? He now owned their home. And memories aren't the only debts that collect interest. Final update. My hands were actually shaking when I buzzed them up. Not from fear, more like when you've chugged 3 energy drinks on an empty stomach. That weird, electric feeling where your body can't decide if it's excited or having a panic attack. I'd planned this moment for years in my head, rehearsed what I'd say, practiced my facial expressions in the bathroom mirror like some kind of psycho. But when the knock finally came, all those rehearsed speeches vanished. Zoe squeezed my hand before heading to our bedroom. We'd agreed she'd stay out of sight initially. This first round was just me and them. Opening that door was surreal. Like those dreams where you're back in high school in your underwear, except I was fully clothed and they were the exposed one. Mom looked smaller. Her hair was box-dyed now, not salon perfect. The designer purse was gone, replaced with something from a discount store. Dad had aged 15 years and 6. The alcohol bloat was gone, but so was everything else. His face looked collapsed inward, skin hanging where the puffiness used to be. The silence stretched for 10 awkward seconds before Mom made this weird choking sound and tried to hug me. I stepped back. The rejection hit her like a physical blow. Dad just stared, his eyes darting around our apartment, taking in the decent furniture, the smart TV, the evidence that his mistake wasn't living in squalor. Mom started crying immediately, which was exactly what I expected. Emotional manipulation was always her first language. Dad attempted something resembling dignity, asking if they could come in to talk. I let them pass but didn't offer drinks or seats. Let them stand awkwardly in my living room like unwelcome door-to-door salespeople. Mom kept saying she couldn't believe she'd found me, how she'd never stopped looking, how many nights she'd cried herself to sleep wondering if I was safe. Dad nodded along like a dashboard ornament. Neither mentioned the home gym that used to be my bedroom. Funny how those details slip your mind when you need something. I finally asked why they were here, not what they wanted to talk about. Why they were here in my home after 6 years. The facade cracked instantly. Mom's fake crying stopped mid-sob. Dad's shoulders slumped even further. They exchanged this look I remembered from childhood, the one they shared when the credit card got declined at the grocery store. That's when the truth spilled out. They were losing the house. The bank was foreclosing. They'd tried everything. Loan modifications, refinancing, even a GoFundMe that raised $87 from relatives who were tired of their financial drama. They needed somewhere to stay. They needed money. They needed their mistake. I asked why they hadn't gone to Morris for help. The uncomfortable shifting began. Turns out they already had. Morris had given them $3,000 6 months ago, money he couldn't really spare as a recent grad with student loans. They'd blown through it in weeks and gone back for more. Morris had finally set boundaries, so they'd tracked down their backup plan, me. The most bizarre part was watching them transition from desperate to calculating right in front of me. Mom's eyes kept darting around, mentally pricing my furniture. Dad asked casual questions about my work and income. They were sizing up what they could extract from me. I told them I needed time to think. Mom immediately pushed, saying they only had 2 weeks before eviction. Dad mentioned they'd need at least $10,000 to secure a new place, plus help with the deposit. The number kept growing as they talked. I showed them out after 20 minutes, promising to call the next day. Mom tried to guilt me about not hugging her goodbye. Dad attempted to act like this was all normal, like they hadn't made a 16-year-old homeless, and then ignored his absence for years. The second they left, I had a minor breakdown in the kitchen. Zoe found me sitting on the floor, laughing and sort of crying at the same time. Not my proudest moment. She didn't try to fix it, just sat down next to me and waited it out. That night, we finalized the plan. The next day, I called and invited them to dinner. Not at our place, at a mid-range restaurant where I'd reserved a private room. They agreed suspiciously quickly. When they arrived, they found not just me, but Zoe, Morris, who'd flown in that morning, and Ronnie, my actual family, the people who'd been there when it mattered. Mom's face when she realized this wasn't a private cash handover was priceless. Dad looked like he wanted to order a double whiskey, but wasn't sure if I was paying. I let everyone get seated and ordered drinks before starting. Then I told them I knew about their mortgage situation. Their expressions shifted from confusion to hope. They thought I was offering to help. Instead, I placed a folder on the table. Inside were the mortgage documents showing that I, through my LLC, now owned their debt. Their home was, technically, my property. Mom went white. Dad went red. Morris looked down at his water glass, hiding a smile. Zoe watched them with the cold, analytical stare of someone observing lab specimens. I explained, calmly and clearly, that I had options. I could foreclose immediately. I could offer them a payment plan they couldn't possibly afford. I could let them stay as renters under strict conditions. Or, and here was the kicker, I could sign the house over to them, free and clear, if they met certain conditions. First condition, they would publicly acknowledge how they'd treated me, not just to family, to their friends, neighbors, everyone. The same people who had laughed at the 1% joke needed to hear what happened after. Second, they would attend family counseling with me and Morris. Not to repair our relationship, but so they could hear with a professional witness exactly how their behavior had affected their children. Third, they would sign a legally binding agreement that they would never ask me for financial assistance again. Mom started crying for real this time. No audience to perform for, just genuine shock. Dad stared at the documents like they were written in ancient Sumerian. Morris finally spoke up, telling them they should be grateful, that what I was offering was more than fair considering what they'd done, that he'd watched me build myself from nothing while they replaced me with exercise equipment. The dinner was excruciating. Mom swung between defensive anger and manipulative sobbing. Dad mostly sat in stunned silence, except for one moment when he asked if I had done this just to hurt them. I told him no. I'd done it to balance the books. They'd discarded me when I had no value to them. Now they wanted to treat me like an ATM when they needed something. That's not how family works. That's not how anything works. They left without agreeing to my terms. I gave them 48 hours to decide. Those 2 days were strange. I felt both powerful and hollow. Zoe kept checking on, bringing me tea I didn't drink, sitting next to me while I stared at nothing. Morris stayed on our couch, acting as a buffer between me and unexpected parental visits. On the morning of the deadline, they showed up again. They looked defeated. They'd agreed to my terms, not because they understood what they'd done wrong, but because they had no choice. The paperwork was signed with minimal drama. I had Zoe's coworker, a notary, witness everything. The aftermath has been complicated. They've kept their word so far, probably because they know I still have copies of everything and could take legal action. Mom posted a long, self-pitying apology on Facebook that still somehow made her the victim. Dad has called twice, awkward conversations where he seems to be trying to figure out if I'm still angry. Morris went back home yesterday. Before leaving, he hugged me for a long time and said he was proud of me, that I'd done what he never had the courage to do, hold them accountable. Is this revenge? I guess, but it feels more like correction, like finally balancing an equation that's been wrong for 22 years. Am I happy? Not exactly. Satisfied is a better word. The anger isn't gone, but it's different now. Less like a burning coal in my chest and more like a scar that's finally closed. Last night, Zoe and I were lying in bed talking about maybe getting a dog or saving for a house of our own. Normal couple stuff. She asked if I regretted any. I thought about it for a while. Thought about that 16-year-old kid with $40 in a backpack. Thought about all the nights I'd gone hungry. All the times I'd worked double shifts with a fever because there was no safety net. Then I thought about who I'd become because of it. How I'd built something from nothing. How I'd found people who actually valued me. I told her no, I didn't regret it. Not the leaving, not the struggling, not even the revenge. Some mistakes turn out to be the best decisions you ever make. Sometimes being the 1% means beating the odds.